this session, we want to talk about how do you get started with creating your operations manual. If you recall in the last video, we talked about what a strategic business leader is, what a strategic business owner does. We talked about the importance of having an operations manual because that's how you develop a turnkey business. I want to give you some definitions as we begin in this session. What is an operations manual? It's not an employee handbook. We'll explain that a little bit more, or we talk about it in the HR module. An operations manual is bigger than just an employee handbook. It is your business in a notebook, basically, or in a digital file. It's a tool you could use if you wanted to start another location, if you wanted to franchise your business, if you wanted to take your business and sell your model to somebody else, license them to do what you do. I've had clients who did all of those things. And so it begins by having a good operations manual. So an operations manual is an organized, documented collection of your major systems. And remember what those 5 systems are. They are marketing system, selling system, operations or fulfillment system, administrative system, and HR system. And those 5 systems are documented in the operations manual. Now, what exactly is a system? I use that word a lot. What is a system? A system is a set of interacting components. It can be your processes, your policies, your procedures. These things work together that form an organized whole. So it's a set of interacting components that form an organized whole. What are those components? Well, those that I just mentioned. Processes, policies, and procedures. They make up your system. Now, on some systems, the system and the process may be the same thing. In others, the system may have several processes, and each process will have some procedures. And then you may have some governing policies that everything within this system works under these policies. So policies are things we always do or we never do. So think about it. We always put the interests and needs of the customer first. That's a policy statement. It's not a procedure, it's just a policy statement. And so policies are things we always do. We always do this, or things we never do. And then a procedure is just a list of steps, the specific steps to follow that will ensure excellence and profitability every single time. So the best way to start is to pick a procedure. What is that procedure going to be? The procedure may be, this is how we perform social media marketing. What's your procedure? And so you start listing your steps. You might think of it in terms of, this is how we answer the phone, an administrative process, or procedure, and you list the steps. This is how we store data and manage our IT tools. And you have a list of procedures, things you do. And so start by documenting a procedure. Pick one, any one, preferably the one that's most troublesome, and document how should it work. And then talk to your team member, talk to your employees, and say, let's start doing it this way. Let's follow these steps. And then once that procedure starts getting implemented, you should begin to see some consistency, and you want consistent predictability, you want consistent results, consistent excellence. And then once you get 2 or 3 or 4 procedures, now you're starting to put together a process or a system. And so just start slowly that way. And you may want to set yourself a goal and say, I want to document 1 new procedure every week and practice it. Or I want to document 1 new procedure a day and start practicing it, depending on if you have enough staff to help you implement. So start documenting your procedures. Now, there are 5 components of a system. When you get to the point where you want to document this whole system, then you want to have a purpose statement. What's the purpose of this system? You want to have a flow chart. Just draw yourself a simple flow chart so visually you can look at it at a glance and you can see exactly how this this system should flow or this process should flow. And then you want to state your policies with regards to this system. And you may only have 3 or 4 or 5. You don't have to have a lot. But these are things, again, that you always do and you never do. And you want every employee, everybody that works for you, to know that and operate the same way. And then you start collecting your procedures. And so, for example, in the HR system, I've listed for you there about 8 different procedures. You could have your hiring procedure, your onboarding procedure, your performance management procedure, your coaching and correction procedure, your conflict resolution procedure, your severance procedure. And so those are specific procedures. In your operations, you probably have a lot of different procedures. Document those steps. And if possible, document it on 1 page. And if not, no more than 2 pages. But ideally, you want to have every procedure documented on 1 page. And if you go, wow, it's just got too many steps, I need multiple pages, then break it down into smaller procedures. Okay, and we'll call it a process. This process has these procedures. Try to get your procedures on 1 page if possible. If you need a second page, go, but don't go more than that for sure. So the 5 components of a system are the purpose statement, the flow chart, the policies, and then your collection of procedures. And then the 5th component is any additional documents you may need. You may need templates, you may need scripts, you may need checklists, you may need an operating manual for some piece of equipment that's involved in that system, or some software that's involved in that system. So those are just additional documentation that you need to reference or you need to have handy. Because what's going to happen is, once you get this documented, this is going to become your training manual. This is how you're going to train your staff to do the work of your business. You can use it to train people in your staff. This is how to market, and this is how to do the different procedures involved in marketing. This is how to sell. Here's the sales process. Follow these steps. This is how we do our fulfillment and operations and so forth. So that becomes your training manual for your employees. So start with that. Don't let that overwhelm you, but just start documenting things. And I've given you some examples there that you can look at, and you can kind of get your head around this and use those as a template or as an example for how you can create your processes and your procedures and build your systems.